to lesson 1. Your learning target or objective for this lesson is solve equations with rational coefficients. There are 2 vocabulary words for this section. The first one is multiplicative inverse or reciprocals. That's 2 numbers with a product of 1, such as 3/4 and 4/3. And the other vocabulary word is coefficients. The numerical factor of a term that contains a variable, such as 3x, where 3 is the coefficient and x is the variable. Okay, key concept for this lesson is the inverse property of multiplication. That is where the product of a number and its multiplicative inverse is 1. Here's an example of one. 7/8. You multiply 7/8 by its inverse, which is 8/7. You would get 1. Another way to show this is 7/8 is you multiply top times the top, bottom times the bottom. 7 times 8 is 56. 8 times 7 is 56. 56/56 is 1. Or another way is to divide. You're going to divide the 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1. 7 divided by 7 is 1. So you would get 1/1 or 1. This is showing the inverse property of multiplication. Here's an example for this lesson. 3/4 C equals 18. Okay. We're trying to get C by itself, so we need to get rid of the 3/4. In order to get rid of the 3/4, we're going to use the inverse, which would be 4/3. Multiply that times the 3/4 C. And then what you do to one side of the equation, you need to do on the other. So we're going to have to multiply this side by 4/3. As shown earlier, we can divide these out. These will give 1. This will be 1 with this. 1/1 gives us C alone. I have 18 times 4/3. We can divide the 3 into the 18. 1 there gives us 6. 6 times 4 is 24. Okay, then you can always double check your answer to make sure it is correct by plugging it back in for C. As you would see, you'd have 3/4 times 24. You could take the 4, divide it into the 24. This would be 1, this would be 6. 3 times 6 is 18, equals 18. That checks out, and so C is 24. Okay, our next problem is 1.5 S equals 16.5. We have a mixed number here. To make things easy, we just make this an improper fraction. Remember, you take the denominator of 2, you multiply it by our whole number, and then add our top. So we do 2 times 1, 2, plus 1 is 3. Difficulty with the red. This out. There we go. 3/2. Keep our S. Same thing over here. We'll take our 2 times 16, which is 32, plus 1 gives us 33. And we always keep the same denominator. 33 halves. Okay, once again, here we go. We have to get rid of the 3 halves to get S by itself. So we're going to multiply each side by 2/3. What to do to one side, you have to do to the other. These will divide out the 1. That leaves us our S. Over here we can divide this out. We have 33/3. We divide that. That gives us 11. So S would equal 11. Once again, you can double check your answer by plugging this back in and checking to make sure, and S would equal 11. Okay, our next one has a decimal. 3.15 equals 0.45 n. It's a little bit different because we have the coefficient 4.5 next to a variable. That means they are multiplying, so we have to do the opposite to get rid of the 4.5, which is divide. So we're going to divide each side by 4.5. This will cancel out to 1. That leaves us our n. And then we have our 3.15 divided by 0.45, which gives us 7. Once again, you can plug it back in the original equation. We have 0.45 times 7, which equals 3.15. So our answer is 7. Okay, our last example and our real world example for this problem. This lesson is Latoya softball team won 75% or 18 of its games. Define a variable, then write and solve an equation to determine the number of games the team played. Okay, first we're going to get rid of the percentage and make it a decimal. And always remember that there is a decimal right behind the 5, right, or right underneath the percentage sign. We always move it over 2 for percentages, so 1, 2, which would give us 0.75. Okay, her team won 75% of some number of games, so we have to make a variable of some games is n, and them winning 75% of n games resulted in 18 wins. So now we have to solve for n to see how many games her team played. Once again, we have a coefficient in front of a variable. That means multiplication, so we have to do the opposite, which is division. We're going to divide each side by 0.75. These will cancel out to 1. This is with n. 18 divided by 0.75 is 24. So her team played 24 games, and always remember to label your answers, especially in story problems. Okay, and if you need to double check, you're going to plug it back into the original equation. 0.75n, or 24, equals 18. So 24 times 0.75 does equal 18. Okay, this completes your lesson 1, chapter 2 video. Proceed to the activity sheet.